Alrighty, Jeff, always a pleasure to see you. You posted an article recently that you had written, and it was about failure being the best path to success. It spurned something in me because one of my biggest realizations over the past year has really been the benefit of failing faster or getting to know faster. And it's one of the key areas where I'm coaching my team. So it resonated with me, and I'd love to get your thoughts. What prompted you to write the article, and give us the gist?
Yeah, thanks, Carson. Yeah, I think a lot of times we don't talk about failure enough, and so I'll talk to you. I think there's like really two reasons why failure can be so important, but I'll kind of start with the first one. The first one is that failure can help you learn when to pivot. And so the story that I told in my blog was about when I went to a new school in seventh grade. I went from a public school to a private school. I tried out for the basketball team in the winter. I think this was like the seventh and eighth grade basketball team. I thought I was a lock to make the team, and I didn't make the team. I remember when I found out that I didn't make the team, I was really pissed off. In particular, I was pissed off because the teacher who was the coach of this team, she had a few like teacher's pets that were not as good as me. And I know that I was better than them and that they got selected out of like favoritism. And so I was like stewing over this. I was pissed off. And, as a little kid, I had like a decision like, do I just be mad or do I figure out something else to do with my time now? And, the only other options back then were to play hockey, and I didn't know how to skate. And the other option was to join the wrestling team. And I had no idea what wrestling was, but I said, the hell with it. I'll give it a try. And that's my only choice. Because the only other option was that you do like extra homework or something. And I liked playing sports, so wanted to keep myself busy. And so I joined the wrestling team. My first year, I think I only had one loss. And I remember, before in the fall, we would do like fitness testing, push-ups and pull-ups and like 50-yard dash and long jump and all this stuff. And I was like a mediocre athlete in the class. But then in the spring after wrestling season, I was the strongest kid in the class. I was the fastest. Like I was doing like 20 pull-ups. I was crushing everybody. And I didn't even know that I got strong, right? Like I remember like being like, whoa, like I got good at this thing. I got faster, I got stronger. I'm gonna invest in this. And the story doesn't end actually with me being like superstar wrestler. In fact, I have a lot of failures in wrestling, going all the way through time at Princeton, where I walked onto the team and failed spectacularly. But wrestling, it's really the idea that wrestling became like a focal point for my life. It taught me so many things. One of the most important things that ever happened to me is that I joined wrestling. I was a pretty good wrestler in high school. I was captain of my team. I had a pretty good career. Again, it wasn't the best. It's not like I won a national championship or anything like that. So it's not like the story is like super inspiring. But the idea is that because I failed at one thing, it led me to another thing that I was able to put a lot of my energy into, learn a lot from, and make like a really big part of my life. So that's the first point. The second point is that you can never grow unless you fail. A lot of people have probably heard of the book Growth Mindset. It's this idea that failure is an opportunity. And every time you fail at something, that there's a learning from it. You actually view failure as a positive. People that are very high strung, and I'm one of these people to be honest, but like they tend to view failure as a negative. They fail, they get upset, and they get stubborn, they get angry, and they won't admit their defeat. And these are people that are used to winning, and so they have a hard time dealing. They view failure just as a negative. But people that kind of like start from the bottom, like they're always failing because they're disadvantaged, and to them they're like, okay, well, like they're looking at it like they're chipping away, and that's like the right mindset to have. Every time you fail, you learn something, and every time you fail, you gain something, and that helps you to be successful. And so when I look even just like at my sales career, I've had so many failures. When I look back at even some of the things that went well, there were so many things I did that were bad and that were wrong. I just got lucky, right? But it's the sum of the parts that has allowed me to be where I'm at today. And again, I'm not like the best. I'm not like, you know, the number one salesperson in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm certainly better today than I was a year ago, right? And that's only because I've made certain mistakes that I've learned from that helped me to get better. And people that shy away from failure never improve. They never put their neck out to try new things because they don't want to fail. And because of that, they stay stagnant. So those are the two reasons why I think you got to fail fast. Either A, because it's going to help you grow, or B, because it's going to teach you that you need to look in a different direction and you can be really good at that other thing too. I know that you have some examples that are like very applicable to the selling environment specifically, so would love to hear your thoughts around this topic as well.
I love that, Jeff, and especially just sharing that very personal story because I think a lot of times we try to shy away from feeling or talking about failure, and it's been so important. I mean, I have the benefit of hindsight looking back. Your sports story resonated with me because I got cut from a basketball team once upon a time. I joined another league and scored 20 points a game. Loved the experience and will never forget it. But compare and contrast that to losing jobs multiple times through no fault of my own. um, it's okay to feel the sting and sit in the sting of that. It is awful. However, you can't allow yourself, wrestling analogy, to allow yourself to be pinned to the mat. You got to get back up. And those are the folks that find success. Um, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich taught us that most people find success after the majority of others would have given up from failure or fear of failure. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned this past year has been the value of failing faster. Because once you fail faster, you have the opportunity to spend more time focusing on the solution than focusing on the situation as you may think it is. And what I mean by that is you come to every scenario with a game plan of some sort. But the faster you find out that that isn't going to be a straight line and you figure out what the path might look like or where you're blocked, that is going to train you to look for those other ways to find the solution. It could be getting no in a deal, having a customer say, no, this isn't in my budget. I can't do this. The dance of negotiation. You want to hear no because what's immediately following from that no is going to guide you on where you're going to have to go from here. A lot of selling that we do too is internal selling. We sell internally at an organization to get what we want, whether that's incentives, discounting, additional resources. You want to get no internally so that you can decide your next steps. Do you take the current package back to the customer and get their no? Do you push? Do you escalate? And who do you escalate to? I've made a career off of knowing which relationships I need and how to use resources to their fullest extent. It's not because I'm super smart, I'm not super talented, but I do know how to orchestrate, I do know how to build community, and those things have served me really, really well. Now, you might also be thinking, if you're in the audience watching this today, what do I mean by failing fast? It just means you're willing to take the risks. You're not afraid of that failure. Because of that, a lot of times you'll try new things, even if there's a chance that you might fail. And you know that in the failure, often that's when the clouds can part and you'll see what's on the other side of that. You've got to get out of your comfort zone and push yourself to grow. That's the only way that you develop muscle around knowing how to handle failure. I welcome failure at this point because I know that there is no solution until I fail or until I'm blocked somewhere. There is no straight line to any solution or any deal ever. And usually some of the gnarliest things happen at the end, even though you've seen around all these other corners because of your experience, you're still going to run into barricades. So it's important. You're going to have those setbacks. You're going to have that immediate frustration, but you don't want to react and respond to that. You want to make sure that you take that in and you survey the scene. What are the new parameters that I'm operating because of? So when I think about failing, when I think about failing faster, I think about learning and improving faster. And I think about saving your time and resources as a result of failing faster because you're able to test your ideas quickly. You see what works and what doesn't. You avoid wasting time on ideas that aren't going to work out, even if you came in thinking a certain way. And I will tell you that at this stage in my life and in my career, I've learned so much by failing in personal relationships, career, deals, that you get to a point where you're so prepared for most anything that you can maintain calm and poise and confidence even amidst the failure that's still going to be thrown at you. You can't win without failing.
Agreed. I love the reference to Think and Grow Rich. I think you're the chapter, the man who almost struck gold is the chapter you're referencing, and this idea of the guy who's mining for gold and he's like one pick away from striking when he gives up. And sometimes you just don't know that you're like literally that one pick away, like when people give up, right? So I love that analogy as it pertains to failure.
So if you're watching today, thank you, and go out and fail often, and get one step closer to your win.
Thanks, Carson.
Jeff, always a pleasure.